There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit ComicShopLocator.com to find a store near you.
Hey man, how's everyone doing? It is time for an awesome interview again here on our Talking Shop on The Experience. Just still trying to recover from the amazingness that happened this weekend during our posted anniversary. For anyone that doesn't know, that means we made it to 6 months doing this crazy thing we call comic book love, where we talk about comic books all the time and sell comic books and talk about things related to comic books because we love them so much. And we love the people that create them and get them to us, which is why we're going to talk today to one of my favorite people in the industry, Charlie Stickney.
Hey, Jen, how are you?
How are you doing?
I'm good. I was actually just singing your praises this weekend. I was at this event called Comic Book Sunday, which I guess it's in Los Angeles. And I guess it started about 10 years ago in Jim Kruger's backyard, where they were hosting all these, creators and up and coming creators. And then a lot of those creators went on to do things. And so for Free Comic Book Day, I was signing at Golden Apple. And I met this creator, and he was like, "Hey, we're starting up Comic Book Sunday again. Would you like to come join us?" And I'm like, I really didn't know what it was. So I was like, sure, it's got comic books in the title. It's this Sunday. That seems like a good thing to go do. So I show up at this event, and it was hosted at Titmouse Studios, which is like this big animation company. They've got headquarters in Los Angeles and New York. So it was like this big shishi event with an outdoor bar and about 80 people. It's the way LA does comics. Yeah. And, but there was a whole bunch of up and coming creators, some established creators, and also a couple of retailers. Ryan, who owns Golden Apple, was there, who's great. But also I met a new retailer who was talking about how he had just started doing some live shows and how it's been a whole new part of his business. And I said, you have to reach out to Jen King, like she is building, the network of retailers out there. She knows how to do this. I said, if there's someone who's leading that part of the industry, it's Jen. And, at least just chat with her, get in touch, know what she's got going on, because I really think that, what you've done to sort of push comic retailing forward is incredibly impressive. So I always, when I'm talking to retailers who don't know you, I'm like, you need to know what she's doing. Because I think it's really important for retailers to know different ways to get comics out there. So.
Oh, make me blush.
No, it's true. I mean, I think you are an important figure in this industry. You have your audience, but what you're doing for retailers in general is just it's really impressive the way you give back. And so I always try to mention you to other people when I can.
It's so cool because I get to kind of give back for all the people that helped me out at the beginning, because I was 25 when I opened my actual first physical store. That was after 2 years of just kind of figuring out if it was what I wanted to do, if I really loved it. Starting out just doing it at flea markets,
right.
And I mean, most people that I talked to were completely happy to share their knowledge and weren't so worried about me coming up and being competition for them. They just were thinking she's so cool to see someone that has passion and wants to do this thing. And I mean, there are people in my life that if I didn't have them, I would have never gotten here. And one of them, when you're talking about live sales, is Marcus King. He has a really great shop. I think it's Main Street Comics in Kentucky. He was the first person that I know that did live sales. And I can remember him reaching out to retailers that were interested in learning how to do it. And he even had a program where as long as you paid for the flight, he would fly to your store and do a live show with you and teach you the ropes. And I just ended up doing it just over the phone and stuff because I just hate to take people away from their stores. And back then I was so dumb, I didn't really understand how in the world was going to recoup the cost of the flight.
Right.
And now that I'm, into doing it all the time, I'm like, that was such a minuscule amount of money to kind of like invest in learning how to do it correctly. So shout out to Marcus. If you guys ever go to Kentucky, you should go and visit him. He has an innovative look at doing retail as anyone I've ever known. Because if he can sell it in his shop, he will do it. Like he sells like for his community, flip out knives are a thing that he sells really well. And if he can take in movies or VHS, anything really, he's the smartest guy, because he's just like, I don't care if my customer base wants it, then I will have it.
Which is great. But I do think, what you're saying about giving back, it's something that when I came to Scout, and for those who don't know who are watching, I'm also the co-publisher over at Scout. I'm also a creator. I write a series called White Ash. For me as a creator, I know how hard it is to get started in comics, to make inroads, to meet people, especially now that we're in an era where there aren't as many conventions just because of the state of the world. So I think, there is something to be said for giving back, to reaching out to creators who are talented, who are likable, who are trying to do it the right way, and giving them a leg up. And I think that's one of the things that we try to do at Scout is not only get great books, which we have great books, but we try to find great people to work with. We want people who are going to be part of what we're building and that are going to support other creators. I think Kevin Joseph, who we've had on this show, who writes the book Tart for us. There's another Tart series coming out in September. But Kevin is he's the kind of creator you want to have on your team, because he's always on Twitter or on Facebook promoting other people's stuff. He'll promote his own stuff, but he loves comics. He loves the medium. So he's like, you've got to check out this new book that I just, I read from Scout. It's amazing. Or, occasionally he'll say other companies. I'm not saying other companies don't do great books, but, I do want to highlight that, that he's very much a team player, and that we have a lot of people on the Scout team who are buying into what we're doing and are trying to help each other. And, not just, you look out for your own book, but you're looking out for the other books that are like yours, the other creators that you like. So, I think the same way that you're helping the retailer network, I think we're trying to do the same thing with the creator community.
Yeah, I think that as much as, when you're thinking about the how to do business model, probably under all of the books ever written, there isn't a make friends with your competitors and raise them up in the book, but there should be, because if you're in an industry, getting everyone to feel comfortable talking about other things that they love to partake in the industry means that they get to feel comfortable talking to everybody, instead of saying, oh, I have to be loyal to one company or the other. Then they have to feel, kind of awkward talking to anybody that they haven't decided to be their favorite. And that's ridiculous.
And I think people especially don't realize that the better that Boom does, the better the industry. They're pulling in more readers who are going to buy independent books, who will then also buy Scout books. Or if Scout has a hot title, it brings in new readers too. So there's synergy. We want those companies to succeed. We want everyone who is not, we want everyone in comics to succeed, because together, we can build a bigger audience. We can all make, some more money. Not the most money in comics, but we can increase that pie for each of us. We're not eating each other's pie. We're sharing pie at a big communal table. And that way, when everyone brings a little pie, there's more pie to eat. So. We've
got a lot of awesome people over here in the comments. Kevin Joseph and Travis Gibb are over there. I see Joe Hardy. Some good people. You guys, if you have any questions for Charlie, throw them up there, because otherwise I will just totally dominate this interview, because I always have so many questions I want to ask. Charlie, who is the person early on in your comic career that you kind of attribute to taking you under their wing, or multiple people?
It's interesting, because I have a very different journey than a lot of people did to breaking into comics. Because I also worked in animation for a long time, and I worked in the entertainment industry for a while first. But before that, I interned at Marvel, right? So when I was in college, I thought I was going to go do comics, and then I had this detour out to LA for 20 years before I got back to comics. So like I did work with Chris Cooper, and I worked with Bobby Chase at Marvel and Evan Skolnick, and they were all great and helped me learn a little bit of the ropes there. But like when I came back to comics, the industry had changed so much. So my in point was Kickstarter. And so then it was some of the Kickstarter community that helped acclimate me to where independent comics were. But then, I will give a shout out to Kevin Joseph, who's in the chat as well, because he was someone who had done TARP successfully on Kickstarter way before started doing it. And he saw my book, and he actually brought it to James Hake at Scout and said, what do you think about this one too? Which started a conversation between James and I. And I was like, I don't know, what's this Scout company? What's it all about? And like, I wasn't sure. And, and then flash forward two years later, not only is Scout releasing White Ash, but I'm now co-publisher at the company. So, so it's been a quick journey, but I do attribute a lot of the credit for me being, part of Scout to Kevin.
See? Brought him into the fold. Scout Comics is commenting, which I'm assuming is James, says, do you think that Charlie has a soothing voice? I was just thinking that. I was like, I really do think that you could do readings of any of books if people are like having a really crap day and they want to just have a much better day and be more centered. They should just listen to you read anything.
Well, I appreciate that. I think most people would enjoy it. If only I could get my kids to sit and listen to me when I read for a long period of time without like interrupting with a very strange question about this cartoon they watched earlier in the day. I'm like, can we just get through a page before you ask me some off-topic question? But if you, as someone who has had children, you cannot tame those beasts. It doesn't matter how soothing your voice is. But,
have you ever considered voice acting? Because I also feel like the commercial that you did that runs on the XP all the time, I didn't put two and two together for a long time that was you. And I thought that this is like a real professional person doing voice acting.
So way back, in the before times, there was a Charlie who came to Los Angeles to be both an actor and a writer and a director and took dance lessons for whatever that was worth. But when I was in animation, I actually worked as a voiceover director. So I got to work with people like Billy West, Cree Summer. If you don't know them, Cree has been in a whole bunch of Disney things. She was in the Rugrats. She was the voice of Penny and Inspector Gadget. And Billy West was Fry on Futurama. He was either Ren or Ren and Stimpy on Ren and Stimpy. So, these are people who've been around forever. So, I've worked with some of those people. And every now and then when the session was done, they needed a little voice for the background to fill out one character. So I have done a little bit of voice acting.
Name some.
It was mostly on the show that I helped produce called Horrible Histories, which was like a time travel show. So every now and then there would just be someone, like an uncredited voice in the background where I would just do a line to fill in. So,
are there more than one version of Horrible Histories? Because the one I've watched on Netflix is like real people acting out the parts.
Yeah. So the book series, for those of you who don't, it's based on a book series that Terry Deary wrote for Scholastic. And he started writing those, I think, in the early to mid 90s. And so we did an adaptation, like I said, back in the before times, that we made between 1999 and 2001. And that was more of like a cutout kind of animation in the vein of South Park. And so we did that. And it didn't air so much in this country as it aired for TF1 in France, ITV in England, where Terry Deary was immensely popular. The problem was the series that we made, and this it's all about tone with all of these things. We thought at first it was going to go on PBS, but ours was too raunchy for PBS to put on the air, but it was too educational at the time for mainstream television to think it was entertaining. And at that time, there weren't as many streaming options, so it didn't really have a home on American television. But it was a great series, and I think you can find it on iTunes now. But yeah, so if you want to see my voice in the background, occasionally, that's a series. And there were a couple of characters that were designed to look like me as well.
I will have to say, like, however you partake of that series, if you were someone that likes history and likes kind of like the history they don't usually teach you in school because it's gross or those kinds of things, it's actually a great way to learn historical stuff.
Yeah, 100%. It was a great show for kids. And like, I think animation is a great way to bring kids to history. It's a great way to bring kids to comics. We've been trying to do that at Scout as well recently. We have our Scoot line, and some of our first Scoot trades are actually coming out now. Like so in September, we're finally seeing the Soulstream trade, which is coming out. Some of these trades were delayed because we were trying to line them up with a bookstore distribution. As we're always trying to help retailers, the goal is to have them come out at least a week earlier. In the comic book shops. Intentions don't always translate to reality because shipping. But that's how it is on our schedule. So Soulstream will be coming out in September, which is just this great novel that was written by a 17-year-old Seda Wolf. She wrote and drew it. My daughter has read it, and she's like a Seda groupie at this point. She was telling me today, she's like, "Can I go with Soulstream for Halloween?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, like it is indeed." She met her at Free Comic Book Day, and she's 9, and so seeing this young woman who wrote and drew a comic book, like, it blew her mind. And she is all about, she's on the Seda train. She's like, is she coming back around? When can I meet her again? She's doing her fan art. She wants to, so like, it was really nice to see, that kind of engagement, and see that the book that we're putting out, that Seda did, is, reaching the kind of audience that we were hoping it would.
I love when kids can connect with creators. I think that the cutest relationship I've ever seen that has come out of people coming to our store and visiting is, my brain's going to stop. Who did Leviathan by Image?
Dang
it.
It wasn't Seda Wolf.
If I stop thinking about it, it'll come to me. But he came, and one of the daughters of one of my regular customers had come, and she's a aspiring artist, and they just got totally, like, he said, "Come on over here, pull down a chair," and they drew together the whole time that he was here, and then they like kept in touch. So like, they, as far as I know, they still talk to each other and still send art pictures to each other, which is, I mean, he's got to know that that's pouring into her life, this inspiration to, like, she might take this to be a career if she just practices and practices.
Right. And like at Awesome Con, I think it was last weekend, Scoot had a big booth set up, which was really great. And Richard Rohr put this amazing show on, and he had Seda doing some drawing with the kids. And there's a bunch of photos that were online of them drawing together. And you can see them making that connection. And I do think comics, that's the great thing about comic shops and making that connection. I had at, the Free Comic Book Day, I had someone come up to me with like a collector's pack of all the issues of White Ash and the Galarian miniseries that I had done. And he was like, just excited to see me, to tell me how much he liked the series. And, he's like, would you mind signing, 2 of these? I was like, I'm going to sign all of them for you. Of course I'm going to sign them. You're taking your time to come see me. And I think, that's where we as creators get a chance to give back to people, to connect with people, like you get to do in your shop every day when you're telling them about the new great books that are coming out. So, I think it's great. That's one of the reasons we want to be here with you, so we can tell you about what's coming out, so you can connect with people, so we can at least virtually connect with people like this. So.
Absolutely. Okay, so I saw some news drop in the last couple of weeks that unless people are just following you guys on social media, they might not have heard this. Tell us more about how and why and what got the idea started to actually take over the First Wave 99 label, the actual clothing store.
Well, that's, So that is a really great question for you to ask James the next time you mustache him a question. Put a plug for that show in as well. Now, on this Wednesday, I think James would love to elaborate about that with you. But that was all about him, seeing the story there behind the shop, seeing the story of the people who are involved and saying, oh my God, there's a great comic here to be made. And, so we want to get involved with this as a branding opportunity as well. Together our brands can grow. But so it was his brainstorm. So I don't want to spoil too much of it, but like that book right now, Third Wave 99, the first issue is going to be coming out in November. So, anyone who's watching this should go down to your store right now, or the next time they're in, they should say, add this to my pull list, because like it's not just a comic that's coming out. There's a whole clothing line that goes along with it. But yeah, like James will happily tell you that story. I don't want to steal it from him because, then his mustache will get too twittery. You can see it twitching when there's something that he just wants to share. So, so I think, we're always looking for opportunities like that. But that's, November is actually an incredible month for Scout. For anyone who's watching, like we have just killer books coming out in November between Third Wave 99. And these are all the ones that are available to pre-order right now. We have this book called Ranger Stranger. I don't know if you've seen any of the trailers for it, but it's like a twisted, screwed up, really dirty Mark Trail. Like if you remember that old comic, like it is like, and like the style is, it's just so twisted, but it feels wholesome until something horrible happens. And it's like a series of strips like that. So for your twisted animation fans, they're just going to absolutely adore this title. It's so funny. And then we also have more White Ash coming out. There's a new arc of White Ash that's starting in November.
No, so November, early November, late November, whatever.
November 17th is when it's scheduled to come out right now. Like we have a Jay Lee variant cover. That's going to be that.
Love Jay Lee.
Yeah. And just so you know, you can see there's the 1 in 25. That's just the line art of that cover as well. Yeah. So yeah, it's an amazing version of Lillian that he did. So for those of you watching, White Ash is the series that I write. Think elves and dwarves living in rural Pennsylvania. That's pretty much all you need to know. If you like fantasy romance, one of the pitches I like to use for that is that the guys from Supernatural got stuck in Riverdale, but rather than battling demons from hell, they had to deal with the worst of Mordor. So like that whole new, we're doing 8 more issues of that. That's starting in November. We also, let's see, what else is it? Oh, Commander Rao is coming out. This is a one-shot. It's like this sci-fi futuristic epic about this young woman who is fighting through basically everyone to get to the woman she loves. And it's by this young artist named Fellhound, and she's incredible. And I think the book already has a following, and I think it's going to do really well in stores. Yes,
is it sci-fi? You said?
Yeah, it's sci-fi, like sci-fi. A little bit in the Flash Gordon-ish universe, like futuristic forces, but really it's about like a woman fighting through an army just to rescue the woman she loves. So, I think
probably for fans of Heathen, but not. It's just a different. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, Heathen. Heathen is another book. Like someone had tweeted on Twitter today, like, what are the books that got you to go to Kickstarter? Heathen was one of those too. I was like, oh, there are good comics being made on Kickstarter as a way to start. So like that was, seeing all these great books on Kickstarter was what made me start going there, and then brought me back into publishing. So
Kevin likes it. He's going to say it's special.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing Kevin's got to see it already.
Well, I would say also the Tart one-shot that's coming out in September has an amazing variant cover that's also done by Fellhound. So, if you like some of her style, you'll be able to see it there in Tart, but the book is coming out in November. The other thing I should mention on your show is if anyone picked up our free comic book day issue that came out last week, there was a little preview for the game. And there was a tease in that's talking about a game that we're going to be playing through our November titles. So there's going to be a cross promotion going through the new series that we're dropping in November, where there will be code words in those issues. And if you put them together, it's going to unlock a puzzle, and people are going to be able to win metal covers and some other things like that. So,
I'm a sucker for those.
so
Sure.
if you check the Scout free comic book day issue, there was a whole link to the rules of the game, so that you can play. Yeah, so we're trying lots of different things to try to get the word out about some incredible books.
So by the way, I have to be real here. I just lost the game. Have you ever played the game? And if not, I'll share you with a horrible thing.
Share away.
Okay, so this is not related to you or the game, but people will probably think about it a little bit. And maybe you can use it as part of the promotion. The game literally is, if you think about the game, you've lost the game. You just have to say it out loud if you think about the game. So that's me. I thought about the game, so I had to say it out loud. And as long as you're not thinking about the game, you're winning the game. But if you think about that you're winning the game, you're losing the game. It's a dumb game.
Yeah. But I feel like to play that game, you need people who are willing to follow the rules of the game. Because it's very easy to say, I wasn't playing the game, I wasn't thinking about the game, and I've won the game. So
that's why JD's putting drink more Ovaltine. Try not to think about it. He's lost already. He knows he's lost. But yeah, it's one of those. It's kind of as dumb as the Cheese Touch. If you were ever a fan of those books,
I have a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old, so I know all about the Cheese Touch.
Who has the Cheese Touch in your family? And if it's you, I'll have to watch my back when I see you next.
There was a time during the pandemic where we wouldn't go anywhere, where we would go outside, and then they would immediately tag me and say, "Daddy, you have the Cheese Touch," and like it was on. You know, we had to go running around just to throw us.
Fingers crossed.
See, I didn't know I didn't know all the rules of the Cheese Touch game. If I had just known, I could have that would have helped. But no, Daddy always got
legs
tagged.
under the table, and then they tag you, and you'd be like, "Ha ha!" Legs across the table.
Next time they bring it up, I'll be ready for them.
So the game is probably a much more serious. Will it be helpful if you're like a good code cracker or those kinds of things?
But it's also a way for us to try to create some synergy. And we were trying to do that with to get people to pre-order the books that were coming out in November to invest in their comic book shops. And like I said, the rules are in there, but you can also just tweet out pre-order codes when it gets a little bit closer to the time, and make sure that people know that these books are coming out, because it is a special group. We also have Thud that's coming out, but yeah, between White Ash and Ranger Stranger and Third Wave 99 and Commander Rao, like November, all these books are available for pre-order right now, and it's just a killer month. That's like every month is killer. Like next month we've got Impossible Jones coming out from Carl Kissel and David Hahn. Like I am super excited about that book. So like there's so much at Scout to be excited about. We could probably talk for 2 or 3 hours. So anytime you want to do, I want to ask you a question for 3 hours show, I am here for you.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the other cool things that you guys do, just in case people haven't ever been to the scout.com site. That if you have a Scout property that you are in love with and you want to show your nerddom and more than just having the comic books in your pocket or whatever, you can quite literally go on there and choose for most of the properties things like mugs, t-shirts, iPad covers. Some of them have shoes you can buy with the logo stuff on it, masks. Anything. You guys have done a really good job of finding many multiples of things that people can have, can express their fandom for your properties on. Like I have a White Ash mask.
Oh, thank you. We actually have someone, Kathy, who's working a little bit figuring out, she made like a Galarian clutch that people could have, which looked really great. So they're trying to make sure that we match the images with fantastic merchandise for people, so they can do that. I one of the things I love about the company is all the different things that we're willing to try, to see if we can make things work for you guys better, or we can make things, just trying new areas of the comic book market. We also just recently released we're also in public libraries now, which I also think is a great way to get people to come back to the comic book store, to hook younger readers, people without money. And then like they read the books there and like, oh my God, I need more. Where can I get the newest thing? I can go to the comic shop. So like, I think like, any initiatives that you can find to get people into the comic shops to pick up books, to try new things. I mean, that's what we're looking to do right now. We're not afraid of, like, even like our launch window policy, which I think a lot of people think is a little odd, but it gives you, the retailers, a little bit more breathing room to see if a title is selling, to promote it before you have to order the rest of your issues.
Yeah, I don't think it has been seen as a negative, except for anyone except for the fans that we've cultivated that love everything Scout. They're just like, we already know we want issue 2, just make it for us.
Right. But we internally we have seen that, because if you don't know how a series is doing, it's a strange system where you're trying to order multiple issues of something when you have no idea how it's actually going to land. So we've found that, the orders of number 2 is going up, and it also gives the creators more time, like I said, to get that word out about their books.
Absolutely. So recently, when you guys have been going to conventions, you've started launching to the public kind of big things and big high concept things like comic tags. How have they been received so far?
Well, I think they're the perfect thing for conventions. Because for those people who don't know, the comic tags are both a collectible, like a trading card, but also has a digital code for download of the books. Like the goal behind them was to make comics collectible, but also to give retailers a taste of that digital market, because we don't want people going to Amazon to buy their digital comics. We want people going to the comic book shops. If they're going to buy digital, buy them from Jen. That's our mindset. We want to work with you, our partners in the stores. But it's great because I know for me personally, one of the hardest things was if you see someone at a certain point in the convention, they're like, I would love to pick up that trade that you're trying to sell right now, but my God, my bag is so heavy. What am I going to do? And I'm like, well, let me tell you what I'm going to do. You're going to take this, half-ounce collectible card, and it's got a trade on it, and you're going to take it home. So I think it's revolutionary from that perspective. It's great for impulse buys for people. So I think it's just another way to sell comics and get the stories into people's hands, which is what we're all trying to do.
It's also kind of a nice way for, like, let's say I'm traveling to a convention and I want to bring home presents for people that didn't get to come, but I don't want to go over my 50-pound limit in my bag. I could pick up one of those inexpensively for all of my friends and introduce them also to something really great that they might not have read before. So I think it's a brilliant idea. And I'm glad you guys did them.
I saw there's someone asking if I have one to show. I don't have one to show, but Jen might, and they're also available on the Scout Comics website. Scout is kind of split up. I'm the West Coast branch of Scout. Yes, you can find more about them here. With comic tags. Oh, there you go.
Really nice. Yeah. So the cool thing about them is that they open up like a little bitty comic book.
Yeah. That was the entire, like the presentation is great on them.
So they've got a little seal on them, which is nice.
Yeah.
So that the person that gets it knows that it hasn't been opened yet. The code's still good, but on the inside there's a card. Let's see if I can get this one open, because my people know that we haven't used the code. So there we go. There you go. So that it has like a little mini comic, and then you've got a collectible card, because this is where you've got your. And
so we'll be doing different waves with different covers. Like there might be a holo card coming down the pipeline, or an exclusive cover. So like some of those will be limited. So they are collectible just the way trading cards are collectible, but they also have the digital code for the comic.
And it's only $6.99. It's crazy.
It is a crazy deal. But I think like it's important for people to read comics the way they enjoy reading them. And there's a whole group of people who just want to read digitally. And now this gives us a chance to be able to sell that to them and not have them say to you at a convention or in the store, I'll just get it online. Right? I can help you with that. Here you go. You can buy it right now. I'm excited for second
second round. These are all the very first releases ones, and we got more coming that we should be able to get to. I don't know when. Will we ever catch up? Because you guys are doing about 6 a release. 4.
Yeah,
no, 4.
we will definitely catch up. We're also timing them with our title boxes. The title boxes are another venture we're putting out, which are like just collectible boxes filled with back issues, and they also come with a comic tag. The White Ash one hasn't come out yet, but that will probably come out around the time that issue 1 drops in November. So that way, anyone who hasn't caught up, before, if they haven't picked up a copy of the trade, which you can see back there, which should be on sale next week. Or if Jen, if you already have them, I hope they're already on sale at your store.
I don't, man. It's like I'm jonesing because it's been more than a week since we've had a Scout shipment.
Well, I'm sure they will be coming too. We actually, like, speaking of all the new things that are happening, I mean, I think James has probably told you, we just opened up a whole brand new headquarters.
Yeah.
So, in addition to the old one, but so there's been a couple of weeks of moving from facility to facility and getting the new larger facility ready to be able to house all the comics and things that we're doing. So I think that may have slowed a little bit of the shipping down, but I know they're back on it right now. So hopefully soon.
Fun fact, the best-selling comic tag at my shop is Stabbity Bunny.
Well, it's a great title. I'm hopeful that there will be more Stabbity Bunny in 2022. We'll see. Richard's been doing that title for a long time, and it's such a great name, and and the cover is just iconic. So I think that really helps also move the book.
Yeah, I know that he is super busy getting the Scoot line going and making sure it's healthy. So I'll be patient. Everyone can be patient, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, we can all, like, I think even as writers, you have to be patient, because if you're working with an artist, it's so much easier in terms of the amount of time that you need to write something than it is to draw something. So you might spend 3 weeks writing a script, and then you have to wait 6 months or 4 months, depending on the speed of your artist to do it. So we're all used to that waiting game.
I got to really brag on Scout in general, and specifically about you and other awesome people like Kevin, that part of the things that you guys have done as individuals and as a company have been being way hands-on with retailers in the help for getting the excitement going for whatever they're doing when they're showing your books. So if I'm doing a show and I know I've got a specific person's books in that I'm going to be showing, I mean, you guys almost every single time, if someone show up and get the excitement going in the room, it feels so much different for people that are buying a book. It's different. I mean, like, if it's just sitting on the rack, there's no interaction, right? Except for with like the picture on the front of the book. Sure. If I'm in the store and I tell people how much I love a book, then that's a little more personal. And this kind of is almost the same level, but this is way better because it's the creator of the book showing up and saying, I care about you as a consumer and your retailer, and saying, these are cool things, and now you know me.
Well, and I think that's the thing that the internet and Zoom and these live streams and whatnot give us a chance to interact with people outside of our own circle. Like I'm Los Angeles based, so I do a circuit of a bunch of comic book shops here in Los Angeles and do my best to put in some FaceTime with there, to try to support them, as much as I can, either with signings or bringing Scout creators in, and getting them exclusives if I have them and they weren't able to get them. So I can do that. It's a little bit harder for me to get to where you are. So if I can send you some stuff
really
that shows you the love, I certainly will. I mean, like, and I think we feel the love coming back, so the creators want to support you. And I think, not every store is as supportive as Scout as you are. We're hopeful that eventually they all will be. But it's nice to have the relationship that we have with you and with a couple other shops where we know that, we each know that we're allies in trying to get books into readers' hands. And I think sometimes there's this misconception that there's an adversarial relationship between publishers and retailers, or retailers and creators. But we're all part of this ecosystem, and we need to work together. And I think, the great thing about you as a retailer and your store is you are open to creators. And like I know plenty of creators who don't have deals with publishers who have books on the shelf at your shop.
Yep.
Because you are always looking to, like, you realize it's a good story and people will want to buy it, and you're open to that. So, I love you for that. I think it's so hard for so many creators unless they walk into a store, and have been spending a lot of money there, for a retailer to be like, I'll try your book that, something, but you walk that walk, giving back to the creators. So I think that's why creators want to get on your show. And
JD's going to show some love for his local. Pretty sure
great.
We saw him at Legacy in Glendale.
That's, I'm going to add that one to my list. I have not been to that one. I was just at Comics Factory in Pasadena recently, and they have a huge independent section. That was really nice. Albeit, I don't want to shout out other ones because I don't feel like they're competitors to you, Jen.
Oh, no, shout out all of them. I'm friends with all of them. It's okay.
Yeah, Heidi Ho is great. We're going to be down at Heidi Ho for their grand reopening on September 18th. So, like, I do feel like there's a really good comic book community here in Los Angeles. And again, they are really open to creators. Yes, Brainy. Yes, I actually went out to visit Brainy, which was great as well. So it is such a great community here. So I think the more the retailers understand that the creators just want to help them and aren't just looking to turn a quick buck, that I think especially those of us at Scout, we realize again it's an ecosystem, and what you want to do is build up the ecosystem for all of us. And so that's what we're trying to do by bringing in creators and working with great retailers, and try to be partners, because that's what we all have to be together.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Whenever I hear retailers tell me the reason why they don't carry independent books or super small print books, is because they say they just don't have room on their racks to do it. And I totally understand that. But what I've kind of figured out for my own space is that when I run out of room to be able to showcase things like that, if I temporarily displace something that's had plenty of eye time, that it's something new and fresh for people to really get excited about. So I rearrange a lot and just try out, give people at least a temporary chance to do it. And even if I can't do that, that's what's so cool about all the cool live stuff that's happening now. Yeah. I don't really need any room in my spot, in my space, if I can get it in front of people's live eyes and be able to talk to them about it.
Well, I also think like we're in this amazing age of multimedia right now, where you have Disney Plus, you have Warner Brothers doing everything on HBO Max. The thing though is, I think sometimes, while that drives people to comic book shops, it doesn't always drive people to comic book shops to buy Marvel and DC, because they already have a version of those things that they love. And it's hard sometimes for some people, for Robert Downey Jr. to measure up to, Iron Man in the book, right? Sure. But they'll come to a comic book shop because they saw those shows, and then they're happy to pick up Saga, or they're happy to pick up White Ash because it's something new. It's a new world, that's accessible to them. And so I honestly see the comic book shops that I see that are doing well are the ones that have embraced things other than Marvel and DC. That may be their old bread and butter, but that's, it's a group of people that I don't think is growing as quickly as the readers who are coming in looking for more. Like, you have a place where you can expand your readership versus just, cultivating the following that you've had for 15 years. So like that's, like when I was at Comics Factory, they're like you, in that they have a gigantic wall that has everybody. like pretty much everybody, and that was amazing. And they had Seda out for Free Comic Book Day and had her signing. That's where my daughter met her, so that was great. So I I love that. And Brainy Shop has a huge independent section as well.
Yes.
So like those are the stores that I can see, I think are going to bring in new readers when they realize, like all the good books that Scout has coming out, that Boom has coming out. Like it's new universes to explore that are accessible.
Yeah. Just when I think I've kind of seen every genre or story being told, then you guys announce a new title that I'm like going, nope, that doesn't fit under any category that I've ever read. I'm excited again.
Well, I'm actually excited. Like in September, we've got Mullet Cop coming out. I don't know if you remember Mullet Cop, but like that book is crazy, and I'm really excited for people to pick up Mullet Cop coming out next month, because to me it feels like it's going to hit that, that the crowd that loved Beavis and Butthead in the late '90s is going to love it. But it's also the crowd, like more recently, like a weirder sci-fi version of Paul Blart Mall Cop. Like there's so much going on there, and the image, just the imagery in the book, it's just going to draw people in. Like I don't think anyone who takes that book home is going to regret it. Like every now and then you get a book and you're like, I thought it was this thing, I thought it was that, but it's not quite living up to expectations. You see Mullet Cop, you know what you're getting. You're getting a cop with a mullet. And just the adventure that goes along tonally with that, it fits it perfectly. So I think, people, you do not. Like if you Google images of that Scout Comics Mullet Cop and you pull them up, you'll be like, okay, I'm in on this book.
I think I put my orders in based on the title only.
I'll be completely honest. When it was submitted to Scout, we're like, okay, we are going to read it, but we're a yes.
But just yes.
Like we usually think like, yes, we want to put this book out.
Has there been anything else that's been submitted that you guys are like, well, we're not 100% certain what it is, but we know we need it?
We actually just signed this title, Mitch, which it was one of those things where it felt a little bit like in that Hellboy universe.
Ooh.
And it's crazy, but it was one of those things like the art's good, the story's weird. If it goes somewhere, I'm definitely in. Ranger Stranger. That 100% Ranger Stranger is also in that Mullet Cop universe too, where you see it. You once you see the ghoulish, grinning park ranger, who is pretty much like Dudley Do-Right, but like I said before, and then horrible things will happen, and that he just like walks by with a smile. You're going to open that book up. That's another one that you're going to love. Like I said, that's also part of the November line that you can pre-order right now.
Is he like the Tick, where he's just like everything works out for him, but he's a buffoon?
It is, but darker.
Ooh.
Like much darker. Like I feel like the Tick, and the Tick was like one of the comics that I first, got me into independent comics. I was at a convention in the early '90s in New Hampshire, and I'm walking in. I was dressed up like U.S. agent because that was a thing at the time. Well, this was. I'm trying to remember whether I was U.S. agent or I was Steve Rogers as U.S. agent. Like this was really kind of before. Yeah, like it probably was, because I think what I had done is I had repurposed my Havoc costume and taken off the top, and I was like, I can turn it into U.S. agent. Because I was probably 18, 17. And so I'm walking through the convention, and this guy's like, hey, John, Charlie, why don't you come check out my book? And we're like, how does he know who we are? And he's like, guys, name tags. Because, of course, we were wearing our name tags. And it was Ben Udland. And he's like,
oh, lucky.
And he's like, you've got to check out my comic, The Tick. And we're like, what's The Tick? And at that point, I think he had 3 issues out. through New England Comics. And he had a photocopy for either the fourth or the fifth, like a photocopy. That was his advance. Like it was definitely a blown up photocopy. And I have a photocopied poster signed by him of like the issue that was coming, where you see like the Tick hanging over something like with these alligators underneath. I forget which cover that is, but it was a photocopy blow up of the cover. And that comic was just like, it blew my mind at the time. You just thought it was the funniest thing that I had ever seen, and that inspired this creature. I was doing with my friend John. We did a comic strip for this high school newspaper, and it was a total Tick ripoff. Like you're 16. I guess I was probably 16, 17 around there, and I was like, I had seen the Tick, and now I wanted to do my version of it. Like it wasn't the Tick, but it was like in that same tone, and like using his as a guideline for the way to do comics. So I was, I've actually met Ben a couple of times, Kevin, because Ben lives out here in California. So I actually then met him years later at a bar, a friend's birthday, because my friend was a TV writer, and he and Ben had been on something together. So I got to catch up with him and say, hey, I met you, 20 years earlier. And of course, he didn't remember that. But for me, it was like one of those moments where like that kind of changed the course of what I thought good comics were, and was getting me out of the Marvel and DC, which I had mostly lived in at that point, mostly Marvel, to say, oh my goodness, independent comics are incredible. So yeah, I mean, I think Ben Unland is an incredible creator, and the Tick, I mean, my God, those early New England comics were just mind-blowing.
I always wanted to show up at San Diego Comic-Con and with a bunch of friends and go near his booth and just set up as a ninja hedge.
Yes, we are a hedge. We are a hedge. Like that, like it killed me. It killed me when I saw that. Like that when I was just talking and telling that story, that's all I could think of in the back of my mind was like just the ninjas with little sticks saying we are a hedge. I mean, it was just like brilliant sight gags like that, also making fun of the ninja craze at the time. Because if people don't realize, ninjas were insanely huge in like the late 80s, early 90s. Every comic had to be ninjas. Yes. So, but yeah, no, he was super sweet in person, both when I was 16 and when I was 30 something.
Kevin says, if you want to go and get his first published writing, you have to go get the Tick #6.
Yeah. Well, I have it, so I will have to go look and see if I can find Kevin's writing after the show.
The letter section.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I also love the way that like that blew up into something bigger, which, in many ways, I think, unfortunately, set the bar very high for many independent creators coming to comics thinking, oh, all I need to do is come up with a good comic, and then it's going to blow up into an animated cartoon and then several live action series, and just become part of the zeitgeist. When truthfully,
messed that up already for everyone.
Oh, they did a little bit, yeah. And I think some of it was, I mean, like, and if you remember, like there was that crazy surge of independent comics right after that. Everyone trying to ride the wave. There was Boris the Bear, the Radioactive Hamsters, and none of them had the same kind of anthropomorphic staying power that the Turtles did because they were special, right?
Yeah.
And also, so at that convention that I met Ben was also when Archie was releasing the first issue of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So they were also at the convention there. So I got the first Archie Turtles signed by either Eastman or Laird.
I'm just so thankful that Eastman's still doing his thing, man. They're still making the books, and they've really had a resurgence in our shop. People are all about it. Between that and the popularity of the Last Ronin storyline, man.
Yeah, and I feel bad for them because they also, I don't know if you remember Tundra Publishing that they had briefly. Like that was around for a while, and I feel like it was the right idea at the wrong time. Mm-hmm. And 5 years later, it would have taken off in a way that it just couldn't take off then. And again, going back into my comic book roots, when I was in high school, there was a cartoonist club, and we actually went to Tundra Publishing. So like 1990, 91, we went down to Northampton and spent a day walking around Tundra Studios. So like these were all the formative things in my mind that, helped me sort of decide that my journey needed to end up in comics. So I think like when we talk about, what you do to give back and what Scout's trying to do to give back to creators, it all comes from those roots. Like, who are the people that helped push you into comics and, generate this love of the genre for you?
Oh man, it's been a long road. It's like my very first books, honestly, were not even mine. They were some friends of mine. I would go to their house and they had a total of 3 books, and we read them until they fell apart. It was like a couple of Archie Spires and the Tom Landry Cowboys.
Okay.
So I mean, that wasn't the ones that made me love comic books, but they were my first exposure. One of the ones that I really fell in love with and couldn't get enough of was all the Chris Claremont X-Men stuff. Of course, that's my era. So
yeah. I mean, like, look, in the 80s and 90s, early 90s, it was the best thing in comics. Mm-hmm. For the most part. Like, there were other great things, but like especially like the 80s. I mean, I was going backward with classic X-Men and getting Uncanny X-Men. It was a gateway drug. The X-Men were the best gateway drug to the Marvel Universe. I've been told to ask you about your amazing comic idea.
If I start putting that out there, someone else is going to write my book before I can. I've been doing a lot of research. I owe James like an entire script. I got all like excited about it, and I was like, well, I'm going to write that over the weekend. And then reality hit that like I work all weekend. How am I going to write it?
Well, Jen, we would love to do a book with you. We would absolutely.
I've done a lot of research. All my character studies are all done. I just have to sit down and actually physically start the writing, which is always the hard part. This is like the first time in my life I haven't just been able to be like, I'm just going to take some time off and do that, because there's so much other stuff that's in play that I feel responsible for, so I cannot.
Of course. Yeah. Look, I completely understand that, helping run Scout in addition to trying to be a writer of my own titles. It's always a juggling act. And you want to make sure that none of those responsibilities are getting a short shrift in terms of attention. And especially the things that are already currently going. Like some of these things are rolling balls and you can't stop. You have to make sure they keep going. And then you're like, which always puts these other things on the shelf for a little bit longer. But when you're ready to take that off the shelf, we're always here for you.
Perfect. All right. We've run out of time, although we can talk forever and a day. And we will again, because I love talking to Charlie. It's so much fun.
I appreciate you having me on.
Where is the best place for them to follow you personally for your work?
Always at Charles Stickney on Twitter. That's where I'm most responsive. It's the easiest place to find me. But check out the Scout Comics website. Look at all our titles that are coming out in November. Tell Jen that you want them all. Add them to your pull list.
Just say all Scout.
Yes, all Scout. I personally will say also all White Ash, because as I write that book, it's all good.
Absolutely. I'm excited for the plans you have for that. Stick around. Comic Collectibles with Rex and John is coming up next. And if it's not too much trouble, if you would really spend just 2 seconds and subscribe to the YouTube channel and or like and give us a bunch of hearts. I know it seems like a dumb thing, but it really does help us. I know that's and JD is a person that lives off of likes and shares. So
we all do. We need that admiration.
It's right. It helps everybody to be seen because algorithms are yucky.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Stick around right after these messages. We'll have more stuff coming your way. Thanks so much, Charlie.
Thank you.